Hello, good evening. Welcome to Look North tonight, when the dream of owning a house turns into a nightmare. Thousands are stuck in mortgages with high interest payments and can't escape. Should the government step in to help?
It's like I'm being trapped for a crime I haven't committed. That's the best, analogy I can put, really, and there's nothing I can do about it.
We'll take a look at help that's available for people with sky-high payments. Also tonight, why money to help children catch up on classes lost in lockdown was not used by schools in Yorkshire. Sheffield scientists say gardeners should see their bills pruned to encourage more green space.
And I'm in the belfry at All Saints Church in Kirby Moorside, where I'm going to be meeting 93-year-old Michael. He rang bells for the Queen's coronation, and 70 years later he's preparing to ring the bells for the King.
And we had a spectacular display of northern lights like this one taken by High Lions. We could well see it again tonight, so don't forget to join me for more of your pictures and a weekend forecast coming up shortly.
Thank you for joining us this Monday evening. It's like serving a prison sentence for something you haven't done. Those are the words of a Barnsley man who's one of thousands of so-called mortgage prisoners. That's people trapped with high interest loans following the financial crisis. Tonight there are calls for the government to step in and help. Let's take a look back, because it all started in 2008 when the government nationalised Northern Rock and Bradford and Bingley Building Society. 200,000 mortgages were sold to firms which couldn't offer new deals, so many homeowners were stuck on high rates as other lenders won't accept them. It's estimated the government made £2.4 billion by selling mortgages from collapsed lenders to investment firms. Now, as interest rates have risen, some are facing rates of 9%, like David Poyton from Thurnscoe. Corinne Wheatley has been to meet him.
So, David, how many years is it now that you have been trapped in your house and unable to switch mortgage?
It's around 16 years now I've been paying well above, a fair rate, really. Yeah.
David is one of thousands of people across the country trapped by his mortgage, unable to switch to a better rate and for many years unable to sell either.
It feels like you're trapped for doing some kind of prison sentence for something that you've never committed in the first place.
David's mortgage was with Northern Rock. When the lender collapsed in the financial crash, the loans were transferred to a publicly owned body. Later, they were sold on to so-called closed-book lenders, mainly investment firms who couldn't or wouldn't offer new deals. So many homeowners were left paying over the odds when everyone else was benefiting from much lower rates.
Within the last 18 months, it's gone from 4.38% to currently around 8.5%. And then I'm expecting it to go up by maybe another quarter or another 0.5% in the next month or two. The only way I can get out of it is by selling the property. Historically, I've been on negative equity for quite some time after the mortgage crash. In the last 3 years, I've managed to get back into equity by paying extra. I've had to pay extra off the mortgage to get it to that state. But I failed affordability checks.
David, what kind of impact has this had on you and the rest of the family?
I suffered from mental health issues, depression. It affected work performance. My wife at the time really suffered. Ended up splitting up over the issues that we got because of not being able to move and, to where we needed to be. And eventually, I lost my wife last year because this has had an impact on it.
A recent report by the London School of Economics found that the government had not only made back the costs of managing the sale of loans like David's, but had made a £2.4 billion surplus. Meanwhile, legal action on behalf of some mortgage prisoners has been launched against TSB.
In circumstances where mortgage prisoners are unable to remortgage elsewhere and where they can't access new mortgage products from their current lenders, we say that's a relevant factor that lenders should have taken into consideration when setting interest rates, but instead they've failed to do that, and they've set rates at an excessively high and sort of punitive level, knowing that they've got this captive book of mortgages in their portfolio.
The government says it's already taken steps with the Financial Conduct Authority to remove the barrier that prevented some mortgage prisoners from being able to switch, and it's open to further practical solutions. David had been due to sell, but is now staying put for his children following the death of their mum.
It will cost the taxpayer nothing to put a cap on the standard variable rate for mortgage prisoners to a fair level. I mean, we're not asking for the earth. We're asking to be in line with all other high street lenders.
Gosh, you can see the impact, can't you, that it's had on David Poyton, who ended that report there. I've been speaking to Katie Watts from the consumer group Money Saving Expert, which has been investigating this issue.
This is an absolutely awful situation. This is about mortgage holders who were sold mortgages prior to the 2008 financial crash, and those mortgages wouldn't be considered affordable today, and that means they can't escape. There are other kinds of mortgage prisoners because there was a change of the rules in 2014, which meant that mortgages would be affordability checked and much more responsible, and some people who took out mortgages before wouldn't pass those affordability checks now. But this mostly affects people with those defunct lenders like Northern Rock and Bradford and Bingley, because they were sold on to other lenders who couldn't lend them any other better deals, and there aren't a lot of things that they can do to escape at the moment, and that's why we've been campaigning for government solutions.
A lot of people would be surprised to hear that the government did make money when they sold on these assets to other companies.
It did, yes. So successive governments' policies have caused this issue, and what we've discovered is that only the government can fix it. The financial regulator has gone as far as it can. And actually, the government's not only made back the cost of servicing the sale of these loans, it's now also made 2.4 billion in surplus, meaning it has a financial and a moral responsibility to fix it for these mortgage prisoners.
So the government says because the reasons these consumers are unable to switch are varied and complex, it's hard to offer a single scheme to help everyone. What do you say to that?
Well, we've handed the government a series of reports which offer several solutions, but it is ultimately only the government that has the data and the information that's needed on mortgage prisoners to be able to come up with potentially a suite of solution that could help to free as many as possible. But at the moment, the government hasn't done anything to free mortgage prisoners from their plight, and we'd like to see it finally picking up the responsibility and accepting the responsibility for helping to free them.
Katie Watts, thank you for your time. Next tonight, around half of schools in parts of Yorkshire have not used a government-funded scheme to help children catch up with learning after the pandemic. That's according to a BBC investigation which has discovered a third of the money meant to be spent through the National Tutoring Programme hasn't been spent, and it's now been returned to the Treasury. Abby Giola has been looking into this. Abby, just remind us, what was this money supposed to be used for?
Well, the National Tutoring Programme was set up in November 2020, and the idea was it would help pupils catch up who'd had their education disrupted because of school closures in the COVID lockdown. And the government ring-fenced around £600 million to pay for extra tutoring, either in one-to-one sessions or group sessions outside of school hours. But a BBC Freedom of Information request found that around £200 million of that money hasn't been accessed by schools. In our area, the take-up varies somewhat. In areas like South Yorkshire, take-up has been higher. All areas there were above 70%, so the highest were in Barnsley and Doncaster with 76% and 75%. West Yorkshire was lower, but most areas had an over 60% take-up there. Wakefield, 70% of schools were involved, and in Leeds it was 66%. But in York and North Yorkshire, the figures are a lot lower, closer to 50%. In York, it was 54%, and the same in North Yorkshire, 54% there as well. Here's the head of a school in Wensleydale who didn't take up the funding.
In North Yorkshire, there are no providers, so it's not fair geographically or regionally that we feel that we've been left out. Secondly, it's very complicated. It's more complex than it needs to be. At a time when schools have got many, many other things to do, actually trying to unpick all the red tape behind getting involved is difficult. And then the cost is prohibitive because although it's 60% funding, it means we have to find the other 40%. And school budgets simply haven't got, just like across the country, we haven't got the money to support that.
So what's the government said about this?
Well, the Department for Education said nationally 87% of schools last year accessed the funding. This year that figure's around 66%. They say that it's offered unprecedented levels of funding to millions of pupils, and they're hopeful that more schools will take up the funding in this coming term.
Many people will want to know what happens to that money that hasn't been spent.
Well, it's around £200 million and it just goes back to the Treasury. But there are some people saying, some experts, that that money could be better used by schools.
Abby, thank
that
you.
£200 million could be really well spent in two ways. One is that schools are actually their own experts. They know exactly what they need in terms of the services, the provision, the resources they need to bring in. So giving that £200 million back to schools in a way that's unrestricted and unring-fenced, and empowering those in schools to make those decisions with how they want to spend that money, because they know best, basically, in terms of their local circumstances.
So we're hearing there from experts who would like to see more funding going to schools to help them with pupils catching up.
Abby, thank you. OK, let's take a look at some other stories coming into our newsroom this evening. Firefighters dealt with a coach fire in the North Yorkshire village of Rainton this morning. This was the situation around 7:45 this morning on Slates Lane when emergency services were called. 2 fire engines attended from Ripon and extinguished the fire. All passengers managed to get off the coach and no injuries have been reported. A road has now reopened in Bradford after a fatal road traffic collision this morning. It happened on Great Horton Road near Drackup Road around 1:30 a.m. when a Volkswagen Golf hit an empty parked car. A man in his 20s was pronounced dead at the scene. 3 men aged 29, 30 and 31 have been arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving. Police are appealing for witnesses. A man celebrating his cancer recovery has had thousands of pounds stolen from his car in Leeds. West Yorkshire Police released this image of the suspect they'd like to talk to. The victim, who's in his 70s, had withdrawn the cash in Moortown, which he was planning on sharing with his children after getting the all clear. The suspect watched the man withdraw the money before stealing it. Now, most of our region's councils are up for election next week, but there's a big change this time around. When you go to vote, you'll need to take voter ID. People who don't have an accepted form of photo ID have until tomorrow to apply for an alternative. Our political editor, James Vincent, is in Westminster. James, this is the final reminder.
Yeah, it's a huge change, Amy, and as you say, the final reminder, because you've only got till tea time tomorrow to sort it out. We'll get into the arguments about voter ID in a second, but here's a quick guide to tell you exactly what you need to do. Right, so the big change to elections this year is your face. You're going to need your face, and you're going to need a picture of your face, otherwise you might not be able to vote. Voter ID comes in this year. You're going to need some if you want to get into a polling station. You can use your passport, a driving licence or a blue badge. You can also use an older person's bus pass, a disabled person's bus pass or an official proof of age card. If you haven't got any of those, you can apply for a free voter authority certificate online, but you've got to do that before the 25th of April. Some are worried it will put people off voting, and others are concerned that you can use an older person's bus pass, but not a younger person's bus pass. There's a full list of what you can and can't use on the Electoral Commission's website, but for more information, just go to the BBC News website. So as you heard there, one of the big arguments is that you can use an older person's bus pass but not a younger person's travel pass. And some political parties saying that that's putting off younger people that might want to vote, and the theory is that they might want to vote for parties other than the Conservative Party. The Conservatives and the government say that younger people, 99% of younger people, have already got proof of age cards, so they don't necessarily need to be able to use their travel cards. The Conservatives obviously came up with this policy. They're firmly behind it, saying it will secure the ballot box in future elections. The other parties, it's fair to say, are not there with them. The Green Party say that they would scrap this idea. The Lib Dems have consistently voted against it. And the Labour Party say that it's been a shambles in terms of the way it's been rolled out, and they don't agree with it. But they don't go as far as saying that they would get rid of it if they were to form the next government. And that brings us neatly to here, Westminster, because there's going to be another election in a year, 18 months' time. That will be the general election, and that will mean a lot more people are voting, and that will be a bigger test, a huge test for this scheme of voter ID.
James, thank you. Now, how about this? What do you think to this idea? People who lay fake grass or concrete over their lawns pay more council tax. It's one suggestion from experts at Sheffield University who believe keen gardeners should pay lower rates or have reduced water bills for going green. Recent research has found many cities have lost up to 50% of their green garden space in the past few decades, and this is having a detrimental effect on the environment. Michelle Lyons has been investigating.
A third of Sheffield lies within the Peak District, and the city has over 70 public parks. But when it comes to urban areas, green spaces are on the decline. Now scientists at the University of Sheffield want more people to turn their gardens green again to help combat climate change.
So the pond, so vital aspect of life in the garden.
Yeah, we really love the pond. I think there's probably about 1,000 tadpoles in there at the moment.
Obviously, one of the most familiar green spaces is our own gardens. And these are a vital resource to us in the city. They account for about 30% of the total urban area. The one thing that councils don't really control is the private garden, but that's where some of the concerns are, that we're paving over a lot of this green permeable space, which is actually vital for our cities to function, and it gets more vital as climate change kicks in.
Recent research has revealed in many cities up to half of gardens have become patios and parking spaces in the past few decades. Scientists want to see more gardens like Will's, which is a green oasis in the middle of Norton Lees.
It's just about that connection with nature. You just feel so much better for it, coming out into a green space, connecting with the world, connecting with the seasons. Yeah, it just really calms you down, makes you feel alive. Makes you feel good.
Not everyone's blessed with a garden as big as this one, but research suggests whatever the size of the green space we create, it's beneficial to our health as well as the environment.
It's lovely to get out in the garden. It's lovely to relax out there.
No, I'd rather have a garden. It's a nice open space for the kids to get out, get some fresh air. You know, not everyone has that luxury, but if you can make a garden, I'd definitely recommend it.
To be quite honest, I don't like gardening. I like to see gardens, but I don't like gardening.
What you've got to realise is when you get old, your knees go, and bending down and gardening ain't very comfortable.
To encourage more people to take up gardening, scientists in Sheffield have come up with the idea to lower gardeners' council tax or water bills.
Having just changed their behaviour would be the best thing, but obviously councils and other policy people may have to look at incentives, financial incentives and otherwise.
Ross hopes his report will put greener gardens on top of everyone's agenda, so more people will be able to enjoy a greener, cleaner future for generations to come. Michelle Lyons, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Certainly a gorgeous garden, that, isn't it? And so lovely to see those flowers in bloom. Speaking of which, have you spotted cherry blossom? It's looking gorgeous. And tomorrow we're going to celebrate the region's springtime blooms. So either from your garden or if you're out and about, we'd really love to see the cherry blossom near you. Send your pictures in, email them bbc.co.uk or via social media. Send them to us. We can't wait to see them. Mark is here now with the sport. You've been down to Wembley. How was it?
Yeah, fantastic, although it wasn't the result we all wanted, of course.
No.
And that is where we'll start, because Sheffield United have set their sights on automatic promotion to the Premier League after losing in the FA Cup semi-final. The Blades were beaten 3-0 by Manchester City. I took a coach to Wembley with a lovely bunch of Blades fans.
Hey up! It's an early start for Blades fans, heading to Wembley in hope rather than expectation.
Whatever will be, will be. We're going to Wembley.
We're playing against one of the best teams in the world. We're not expected to win, so as long as they can just get all they can and try their best, you know what I mean? That's all we can ask for.
We're just going to enjoy the day. We've been many times to Wembley. Unfortunately, we've not been successful in recent years, but you never know. One of these times, we might just be lucky enough.
The ball as much as we would have liked at times, but we worked hard. We were just outdone by a miles better team.
It's just disappointing we couldn't give our fans something to cheer about, but I'm sure they'll be proud of us, and we can be proud of the performance. No shame in losing to Man City 3-0.
Now you've got to believe us, the Blades are going up.
The lads did us proud, to be honest. They played with pride, they played with passion, and they put in the effort. What more can you ask?
3-0, it's a scoreline. This is all about friends, family. We're a football family. We're all together.
We're in good spirits. It's all good.
Just being there were absolutely class. Fans were just unbelievable, loud and proud, as we always say.
Any sense of disappointment among Blades fans will soon fade because on Wednesday they take on West Brom at Bramall Lane. Win that and they'll be promoted to the Premier League. Elsewhere, Leeds United take on Leicester City tomorrow at Ellen Road in a massive game near the bottom of the Premier League. Leeds are just a point above the relegation zone after losing to Fulham. But in League One, Sheffield Wednesday stayed in the race for automatic promotion. The Owls went one down at Hillsborough early in the second half against Exeter City. But Wednesday hit back when Barry Bannon's cross was glanced in here by Lee Gregory. Then Callum Patterson earned Wednesday what could be a vital 3 points. Meanwhile, our only other club to win this weekend was Barnsley. Their faint hopes of a top 2 finish in League One were kept alive thanks to 2 goals from Man City loanee Slobodan Tedic against Oxford United. The Reds have now won 9 successive home games. They take on high-flying Ipswich at Oakwell tomorrow night in a big game for both clubs.
Coronation's just around the corner, isn't it? And one town in North Yorkshire is getting ready to celebrate, not with a street party, but with a sound to be heard far and wide. 93-year-old Michael Stevens from Kirby Moorside is a bell ringer, and along with some new recruits, they're going to ring in the king. Olivia Richwald is at rehearsals now. We're looking forward to hearing this, Olivia.
Well, yes, listen to that. That really, to me, is the sound of England. And I'll just finish climbing up the very steep stairs into the belfry here at All Saints Church in Kirby Moorside. Now, they've been rehearsing very hard to ring for the King on May the 6th for the King's coronation. There are 6 bells here and they've been practising really hard. And we can talk to some of the bell ringers now if they have to stop ringing to do interviews with us. This is Callum. He's 14 years old and he's been learning to bell ring as part of his Duke of Edinburgh. Callum, what is it you love about bell ringing?
Well, I love other people and it's nice to get on some ropes, really.
It's nice to be part of a team, and next to you over here is Michael, who's 93. Now, Michael learnt to bell ring in 1945. He rang for VE Day, he rang for the Queen's coronation, and 70 years later he's also preparing to ring for the King. I imagine, Michael, that things haven't changed that much in bell ringing in 70 years?
No, I suppose not. The bells still go in a complete circle.
It's been a big part of your life. What is it you love about it?
It's good exercise for the arms. It's good exercise for the mind, the brain.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll let you get back to rehearsing very shortly. So, nationwide, an appeal went out to find more bell ringers because there just aren't enough in the country. And one of those who answered an advert to ring for the King was Alana. Now, you're an NHS nurse. Why did you sign up to come and do this?
I liked the slogan Ring for the King, and Callum is my neighbour, and we got chatting and he invited me along, and here I am.
And you've been practising now for about 6 weeks. How's it going and are you enjoying it?
Yeah, about 6 weeks. I've been having weekly one-to-one lessons for half an hour, and last week I rang for the first time, and yes, I'm really enjoying it. Everybody's made me feel really welcome.
Well, thank you very much and good luck on May the 6th. Now, across the country, would you believe it, there are 38,000 bells, but only 30,000 bell ringers, so there is still a very big shortage, and they're just going to start their rehearsals again now, and we'll let them just finish off with a little bit of a rehearsal, but there'll be a lot more of this happening on May the 6th. And if you fancy being a bell ringer, as I said, there is a big shortage. Go along to your local church and inquire, and then you too could also be part of history.
Olivia, thank you. That sounds great. So there's still openings available if you do fancy having a go at bell ringing. Sound up your street, that, Paul. Good for the muscles.
You got plenty of time on your hands, Amy. You could make a good bell ringer there. But anyway, even more exciting than that, with the Northern Lights last night, let me just show you the spectacular pictures that you sent in. That was taken in York. The second picture is a bit Stonehenge-y. That was Crayco near Grassington after dark. And the third one is just beautiful. That was taken on the North York Moors. And if you missed it last night, there is a chance that we could see it again tonight. If you look to the north after dark, generally speaking between 10 o'clock and 2 in the morning. No guarantees, but skies will be clearing, so there is a chance. Right, let's have a look at the headline for the next 24 hours. It's not looking too bad. We'll have lots of sunshine at first. It will tend to cloud over through the afternoon. And then through the week, these weather fronts try and make progress, reaching us during probably Thursday and Friday, giving some patchy rain in places. As for the weekend, it still looks a bit mixed, but at least it will be a little bit warmer. Now, the air's been coming down from the north today, but the skies are already clearing. Actually, some early evening sunshine across North and West Yorkshire, heading into South Yorkshire. And then overnight, just 1 or 2 coastal showers. Inland, it looks set to be dry and clear. Gardeners beware, a widespread frost. Lowest temperatures down to -2 in rural locations. Tomorrow's high water times then in Scarborough 8:09, Bridlington at 8:27. So the odd isolated coastal shower, otherwise it's a frosty, sunny start right across Yorkshire. I think as temperatures rise, we'll see skies turning partly cloudy through the afternoon and into the evening, but it should stay dry, with temperatures a bit disappointing for this time of the year, 10 or 11 degrees. As for Wednesday, rather cloudy with a few showers, especially later. Thursday, Friday, quite cloudy, patchy rain, and then temperatures recover just in time for that bank holiday weekend. That's the forecast.
Sounds lovely. Thank you, Paul. And those Northern Light pictures, absolutely spectacular. Keep those coming in if you do see them tonight, and don't forget your blossom pictures. That's it from us. Thomas here with the late news. Bye-bye for now.